welcome back to another Ugritone podcast where myself, Rondi Rock, and Aaron Cloutier will have an actual guest joining us today. And not just any guest, Mr. the one and only Karl Sanders from Nile.
Yes.
How you doing today?
Doing fine, sir. How about you?
It's great. Just trying to survive the rain in the Detroit area. Started pouring, and when the land is flat, it gets pretty crazy.
Yeah, man. You know, you guys should share some of that rain with the folks on the West Coast. They're hurting.
Yeah.
Kidding.
Lots of fires.
Yep.
Which is like, looking back like 20 years, like California's always been burning, but now it seems like it's multiple burns going on at the same time, and it's fucked.
My mom lives in Bakersfield. I'm originally from South San Francisco. And
okay.
Yeah, so I'm well, like, you know, plugged into this whole, hey, the hills are on fucking fire. Like the hills around where we lived in South San Francisco, they would have fire breaks where they would, you know, make 20 feet wide so that if the brush fires in the hills were trying to spread, there was a 20-foot gap they'd have to jump across. And so this helped impede the California fire season. But
wow,
you know, even that shit don't work now.
Crazy.
Yeah, exactly. But it's like the heat's not really, or is it like heat, but like that adds into the already like scorching weather,
dude.
Right. So
when I was in Dubai a few years back, it was on the day we were going to the airport, it was 135 degrees.
Ugh. Holy shit.
And the trees on the side of the highway were catching on fire. So this is some fucking crazy ass shit to witness. You know, you're in a taxi, right? And you look out and the trees on the side of the road are motherfucking on fire.
No kidding.
That's almost like what they wrote on the Bible. All of a sudden, like, sounds like it actually might have happened. The burning bush and crazy times.
Oh God, can you imagine seeing that though? Like, were thoughts in your mind anything along the lines of like everything's not gonna be all right? Like, because that's 135 degrees, and then you look out and you see trees are catching fire. It's just like, all right, well,
we didn't have time to think about it. We had to go to the airport, catch a flight, and we had a festival in Germany we had to play. We had a really busy week that week.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Which kind of leads us to our topic today, which is touring.
Yes. Touring.
If anybody still remembers bands jumping in a vehicle, going into shows, going from town to town, wreck them and leave.
Yeah, man. It is one of the toughest things imaginable to like live that life, right? Which is basically my life the last 2 decades. And then all of a sudden, stay the fuck home.
Yeah.
You know, the first year that I was stuck at home, I lost my fucking mind. It was very hard to cope with. And rehearsals were about to start for us again because we got a tour February and March here in the States with Incantation. Wow. There you go. Hopefully that'll be announced soon. We can't fucking wait, dude. We can't even contain ourselves at the joy that rehearsals are starting on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Dude, I love band practice. Not going to band practice for the last year and a half. I don't know how I kept my sanity. I probably didn't at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that brings up a good question. So I know that you teach guitar lessons and you've been doing that on the side, but I'm just curious, like how you have been, well, one, staying occupied, and then just, paying the bills this year and a half as a musician.
It's been like hanging by a thread. I've been giving lessons, and I'm thankful for every single student. Some of them are actually a joy, actually.
Like 20%.
But I'm thankful for all of them, because without them, I would be doing something else.
Yep.
I've got a few guest sessions playing on other people's records, and that
Awesome.
definitely helps pay the bills. Sold a few guitars, which I didn't want to, but if you have a choice between, well, I got to pay the mortgage,
Right.
car insurance, and the power bill, or you look around, one of these guitars has got to go.
Yeah.
But I love them all, so that was fucking kind of tough.
Yeah. No, I can relate to that. That's never, it's never pleasant. It's kind of like, oh yeah, fine. But
Sell one of your babies.
yeah.
Yeah, sell one of your babies. I'm a parent. I got a kid who's managed to live 26 years now. I wouldn't sell him.
Yeah.
The marks of a good dad.
Yeah. Exactly. So yeah, you mentioned that the rehearsals are coming back next Tuesday, and so I'm just curious, like your tour that's set to start. I actually have the dates here on September 24th, starting at Durham, North Carolina. Is that still a go, or
No, those are old tour dates. Got canceled at least 7 or 8 months ago, but there are some promoters still promoting those shows because they're trying to avoid ticket refunds.
Ugh.
So they promote the show is still happening, even though it's not. Dude, we've like announced that multiple times. I try to spread the message as much as I can. Guys, those shows are not fucking happening. They were canceled. Get your money back.
Yeah.
It's completely unethical, although I do understand why independent promoters are doing it, because independent venues are having a really fucking tough time just staying in business.
For sure.
Okay. I get that. So I see both sides of this, but I think the most important consideration that anybody involved in any aspect of the music business is an inherent respect for the fan with the dollar bill that makes it all motherfucking possible. Without those people, what do you mean those people? Because those people actually are us, right? All of us metal fans.
Yeah.
That's who makes it possible. So if a fan buys a fucking ticket, that is holy. That's sacred. Fan that comes to the show, buys a ticket, buys a t-shirt, makes everything possible. So
I agree.
I'm sorry, that consideration comes first. If you buys a ticket and there's not going to be a show, deserves a fucking refund.
Yeah. It's all about the trust that you establish with that audience, for sure.
Yep.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
Well, maybe if you said it first, then I'd be saying that too.
I mean, honestly, like there haven't been many audiences that I've played to. Like we're talking about touring, but I have not really toured at all. Like I played shows, but I haven't toured. So this is more of an education for me. Yeah, and I'm very curious about your perspective on all that too, because I mean, you've been doing this for 2 decades at least, right? So, I mean, I have a bunch of questions. I know Ron has a bunch of questions too. Ron, do you wanna kick this off, or?
Yeah, I want to have them answered immediately. I should have said that with Arnie voice.
No.
Yeah. I'm just curious, like, I've done a little bit of touring, but nowhere to the extent of you guys. But just like, say the tour would start tomorrow from Durham, North Carolina. So, like, the second you leave home, like, what's the pathway from your home to the venue, where it's like, because that's never really been touched by any interviews that I've seen. Kind of like, yeah, when you leave home, like, is there a taxi waiting, or is you just drive to the airport, you fly somewhere?
Okay, well, all right. So if I take this question utterly literally,
yes.
okay, nowadays we ride in a tour bus.
Yeah.
Back in the early days, we were like everybody else in a van, but it's essentially the same. Tour bus shows up. It'll probably be coming from Nashville, because that's where all the tour bus companies on this side of the country are, because it's motherfucking Nashville. All right. Got LA, Vegas, Nashville, tour bus companies. Most of them are located where the tours are. Yeah. So the bus would arrive to our rehearsal facility, which is in a warehouse on the other side of town. We load up all the gear. Everybody would meet there. We'd all get on the tour bus. And literally, we would drive up Highway 85 from Greenville towards Raleigh or Durham. Raleigh and Durham are like sister cities. We drive up 85. It's a straight shot. It's about 4 hours. And that would be the pass. We probably stop at a truck stop at some point.
Yeah. Buy a silly hat, and I was like, hey, there's a turkey hat. I never knew I needed it, but since it's only $2.99, just can't say no.
Dude, you'd be surprised at the amazing shit that one can find in a truck stop. I'll never forget one of the more recent tours. Well, it's been 5 years. I saw a self-help book at a truck stop that was how to deal with difficult employees. We had a guy working for us that, how do I get this guy to motherfucking do his job and stop causing fucking chaos on the tour? So I got this self-help book at a truck stop. I started reading it, right? Man, a tour bus is kind of like a submarine, right? In that you got a bunch of guys in super close quarters and you're with them 24/7. The only time you're not with them is when the tour bus gets to where it's going and you get to get out of the tour bus. And you have to, you're at a truck stop, or you're at the venue, or you're broken down on the side of the road, or any number of other things. But basically, you're in a motherfucking submarine with your brothers, living, driving each other nuts. If you really want to know somebody, go on tour with them, live on a tour bus with them. Yeah. It's like, you never really know someone until you share an apartment with them, right?
Yep.
Same kind of thing, except times 10.
Right, I bet.
Yeah.
So you see people at their absolute worst on the tour bus. Anyways, so I'm reading a book, and the dude's walking by me all the time, and he starts putting it together. Why? I'm reading this book Yeah, he didn't work out too well. He's no longer with us.
Yeah. Left him at the truck stop like a few days later, or
no, we unfortunately couldn't fire him in the middle of the tour because we had no replacement for him. So we had to finish out the tour. And that's a next level of grudge holding, right? When you got somebody on the tour that you got to fire, but you can't.
Yeah.
Right.
You got to find some other way to still make your tour work, despite the headaches that this other person might be giving you.
Yeah.
Right. So by the time you get to the last stop, right, everyone on the tour is like gone mental over this one person, and whatever little headaches they had been causing become magnified.
Yeah.
And totally out of proportion to reality.
Yeah.
And it becomes a thing.
Yeah.
So I would imagine that that's affected like your screening process for new members, right? Like,
yes, absolutely. It's how Brad Paris, our current bass player, got the job in the first place. Brad came to us. He's like 20 years old, and we gave him a job as merch assistant and lighting guy. He had 2 jobs, right? During the show, he'd do the lights, and he would restock for the merch girl who couldn't necessarily leave the merch table to go out to the trailer to get t-shirts when she ran out of this or ran out of that and bring more back in, right? So he was basically running with arms full of t-shirts and hoodies and whatever else. Well, after a couple weeks on tour, we started seeing what kind of person he was. He was a genuinely good guy who also could fucking shred up a bass guitar beyond his years. And on top of that, he was musically very knowledgeable. Like, he knew every motherfucking band going back all the way into the 70s. Knew every Rush song inside and out. Knew every Sabbath song. Knew every Zeppelin song. This fucking guy knew, like, and I'm like, how is somebody 20 years old that deeply knowledgeable about music and is a good person?
Yeah, especially these days, right? Like,
especially these days. So,
which kind of reminds me of hardcore, and then 20-year-old would say, "Oh, you mean like Acacia Strain?" That's like now it's more like Minor Threat, but yeah, because it's kind of like the ranks have kind of changed. So I feel like not a lot of I'm still a baby. I'm only turning 33, but like homework.
Yeah, you're in front. You're still in diapers.
Yeah,
enjoy it. It don't last.
Yeah. I probably wouldn't.
It's okay. You can change them once in a while. You can change the diapers. It doesn't matter if they don't last. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's true.
I meant the time. I meant not the diapers.
Yeah.
Anyway, what were you saying, Ron?
I probably, my train of thought probably came to an end. I lost it.
It's a train wreck of thought.
I'm sorry.
Yep. There's more of them than trains or like well balanced that stay on the tracks kind of trains. It's like a Grand Central sometimes in my head. Thoughts, they come and go, and nobody really has a timetable.
So I think we were talking about
tracks.
So a 20-year-old this day and age being so knowledgeable about not only, technical ability, music theory, but like music history. I mean,
Yes.
there is a lot to be said for that, because like there's such a ubiquity of bands now, just of all kinds, you know, just if you're on a label or if you're an independent, and you know, you have all the unfortunate, well, I mean, depending on who you ask, the streaming services and all that sort of stuff, which I do not co-sign on, but like there's just a ubiquity of you know, like endless bands out there. And I even forget what I've been into for the last 20 years, just because I keep seeing new bands that just like push those memories out of my head almost, just because there's so many to keep track of. So
yeah, it's a noisy place.
Yeah, I forgot where I was going with that, but
sorry.
No, that was all me. It's just kind of like, it just makes me think about like, how do kids, like, it just seems like a really rare thing where you find somebody that young who's a lot like somebody who grew up in the 80s and 90s. Like, how often does that happen these days?
It almost never does. So I was aware enough to realize, you know, over the course of that month and a half we did that tour, that Brad was doing this other job, that, wait a minute, this is a guy we actually need in our band, not slapping t-shirts. This is a guy that we fucking need actually in the band, because the kind of person that he is and what he brings to the fucking table. Right. And this would not have really come to my attention unless I'd been trapped in a submarine with the dude and was able to see what exactly this guy's made of. All that shit would have gone under the fucking radar if he was just hanging out in my town and I saw him at the club, you know, drinking a beer while we listened to whatever band happens to be playing. I'd have never seen that shit unless I'd been in the submarine with him.
True.
Yeah.
Very true.
Yeah, and it's kind of like so many stories, like bands going through like lineup changes, and it's always somebody from the already in the fold, kind of like whether it's crew or, you know, like when James Hetfield broke his arm, they didn't post auditions, they got John Marshall. Yeah. So that was kind of like, okay, get to play with Metallica on a stadium tour with Guns N' Roses, and all I had to do was learn the songs.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's, you know, the human element is not to be underestimated. Somebody that you know and you believe in and trust is worth way more than even a more talented person that you don't know and are not personally vested in.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's like if the relationships, if the bond is there, right, you can always get better in your ability.
Yes. That's like an intrinsic philosophy of this band. We come from Greenville, South Carolina. There's no great pool of fabulous musicians here, right? But what we do have is, well, it's a boring ass little fucking southern town, so there's nothing to do. So you can work your ass off, right? If you have a work ethic, you can develop the skills, learn the skills, apply the skills, because there's nothing else to do here. This is not New York. It's not LA.
Yeah.
So what else we got to do?
I was going to say Richmond, Virginia, which seems to have a really like a big pool of metal dudes. Not just Lamb of God, like Guar, the Hall Brothers, like Municipal Waste and doing all that, but they don't really exist in every single town, I think.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, It makes sense. It like you look at Sweden, right? Like so many. How many people came out of Sweden? And you know, the stories that I heard was just kind of like, you know, it was too cold. There was nothing to do, so you just sit inside and practice.
Yeah,
I mean, that's where
the government actually pays some money to go to practice.
Yeah, that sounds amazing.
Well, it's better than people getting bored and deciding to overthrow the government.
Yeah.
It's much better to have people working.
Yeah.
Give them jobs. Give them something to do, and they won't get pissed off and overthrow the government. It's a basic rule. Government 101. You must have people working.
Yeah.
Give them jobs.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah. Shit, you got to stay busy to not do something.
Absolutely. I mean, like that.
Bad.
I grew up in New Hampshire, right? And it's a similar situation, what it sounds like to North Carolina, where there, you know, nothing to do, no real outlets.
South Carolina.
Sorry. So most people, especially in the town that I grew up in, you know, resorted to drugs and just drinking and all that sort of stuff because there was no other outlet. And somehow people like myself got lucky and just found a guitar and just, you know, got obsessed and just hid from everybody and just practiced that. And yeah, I mean, it goes a long way. It's once again, I don't know where I was going with that.
There's no meaning here. There's no silver lining.
Yeah.
Actually, well, one thing that if we need a topic, I was just wondering, because you mentioned that it's been 20 years now has been your life. Like, how has touring changed from the early days? Say, like you guys started early 90s, going to like prior to the pandemic.
Well, the most obvious change would be the method of travel. Because when you're starting out, right, and you can barely afford a van, right, and you can barely afford to put gas in the van, right, there's certain existence that you find yourself participating in, just because of the nature of how much money you have to work with and how you're traveling, right? If you're at the very bottom of the bill, you can't even afford hotel rooms. You're sleeping in your van, which if you got your band plus a sound guy, maybe a merch person, that's 6 people in a van, and you're living in a van, sleeping in a van, eating in a van, traveling in a van. You know, you got to learn to sleep. You know, if you're 3 guys to, you know, the bench in the van, right, you got to learn to sleep like this. Right, there's the window, there's your head, and that's your night of sleep right there. Maybe if you're lucky and you park somewhere and one of the other guys goes to do something else, well, maybe you might have a little more room to stretch out a little bit. Maybe if you're lucky, but that's only if somebody vacates the van for a little while.
If somebody else gets lucky.
Do you ever have like a situation where you work it out where like somebody sleeps on the top of the van to make some room for?
I've never seen that. But we had a camper for a while, which had the over top like sleeping compartment.
Oh, cool.
That was helpful. We had that shitty little RV on like 2 or 3 early tours we did, and that you could squeeze 2 people sleeping horizontally up there. So that was the prime place to sleep. But back in those days, like whoever was driving wasn't necessarily disciplined enough to stay completely sober. So Sometimes it wasn't such an easy sleeping ride because, people driving under the influence do stupid fucking shit while they're driving.
Yeah.
And it's very hard to sleep when you know that you're like, a hair's breadth from yet another van accident, which there's a reason why those happen. It's people are tired. Mm-hmm. They've been on tour. They haven't gotten a good night's sleep in weeks. They haven't really been eating healthily. Certainly not, living life under optimal circumstances.
Yeah.
So, that's why people crash their band vans. They're exhausted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. It's terrifying.
As your band moves up the bill incrementally, right? If you're lucky enough to be doing well and you're building, right? Your mode of travel slowly gets a little better. Like if you move up the bill a notch, well, maybe now you got enough room to afford a hotel room, right? That's now in the budget. So now you're driving your van and get a hotel room. Maybe not every night, but at least a couple nights where it's possible, where the drive isn't too far. Maybe you can afford a hotel room. So now you got 6 guys all piling into a hotel room. You got 2 double beds. You got 4 people on the beds. 2 guys are on the floor, but you don't care because you know what? This is rock and roll. We're happy to be here.
Yeah.
So at least you've bumped up 1 notch. So now you got a little bit of sleep sometimes. Life's getting better. Right? If you go up a couple notches more up the bill, now maybe you're sharing a bus with somebody. Ooh. Now this is miraculous. Someone is driving the fucking bus who's not you. And it's not one of your bandmates. It's a guy that's being paid to do it.
And
now
sober.
Most of the time, we had this one fucker. This was during the Art of Noise Napalm Death tour we did. He was total cokehead. Would stay up for days at a time. His driving was pretty fucking erratic. It was hard to sleep while he drove. But most of the guys who are professional drivers, drive professionally, busted and wandering all over the road, hitting the fucking rumble strips, waking you up in your bunk. Because in your bunk, there's no window, right? So you can't see outside your bunk, right? There's a curtain here. You're in a bunk. You're basically in a little fucking coffin going down the road, of which it's you can't see nothing.
Right.
Well, your mind will invent all sorts of possibilities for what is this guy doing? Why am I hearing the rumble strip?
Oh, God, I can only imagine.
Like, dude,
Cliff Burton.
Yeah,
exactly. Like, you haven't lived until you've been in a tour bus traversing the Alps, like in between Italy and Germany, or Italy and Austria, or Italy, Switzerland, anywhere in there where the Alps are, right? You're on this winding road in the Alps and you feel all these tons and you're hyper imagining yourself making a turn but going off a fucking cliff, right? You imagine all this shit while you're laying in your bunk. You're going, what the fuck? Which is why people start really drinking heavily on tour buses, because you got to be able to fucking sleep.
Yeah.
So you do what you got to fucking do.
So, like, at some point, do you get to like a state of mind where you just treat it like you're getting on an airplane and you're just kind of like, you know what, this plane could go down, so I just kind of have to accept it? Like, do you ever get to that point?
Yes. I believe so.
Man.
For some people earlier than others, right? Like, the sooner you accept that, the sooner your stress level goes down and maybe you can go to sleep.
Yeah.
So you gotta be like, But But me, I was a, that was during the time when my kid was a kid, and I needed to also be a parent and responsible,
right?
And not just survive the tour, but survive the tour and arrive home with enough cash to support my house and my kid. So things take on a different element of seriousness. Now I'm not just a 20-year-old guy out having fun on tour. It's not necessarily fun for me.
Right.
I have to show results.
Yeah. Yep. That makes sense.
So that kind of like drinking to calm the nerves. I remember 11 years ago, I did a tour in Russia. And so prior to going into it, like we had a nightliner, we shared it with the headlining band. And I just kept thinking like decapitated, what happened to them, like with the, and you see all those videos like traffic in Russia and like, holy shit, like, and the roads and all that. So yeah, sometimes you just got to drink to stay sane.
Sometimes you just got to drink. We did a tour in Mexico a few years back. I can't remember what year this was, but it was during Annihilation of the Wicked, that era.
Okay.
And there were 3 shows. We flew into Mexico City, and we had to go to Guadalajara for one of the shows, and we had this little mini bus to take us over the mountains to go from Mexico City to Guadalajara. Well, there were no shock absorbers in this shitty little Mexican minibus. And the mountain roads are not well maintained. So even though we had bunks, for 8 people or whatever, the whole time, you can't see this because it's audio only, but I'm making my fist, bounce like a foot.
Severe bumps.
Severe bumps. It's like being hammered, right? Being constantly slammed, a foot up off the ground and returned back to earth. Well, one of the guys working the tour was like, I think it was a guitar tech or whatever. His bunk was above mine. And these were just little plywood bunks, right?
Yeah.
His bunk came crashing down on me. Right? Oh, no. So now I got this 200-pound guy on top of a piece of plywood on top of me, and I'm still being bounced down the road. So now this dude on top of me on a piece of plywood is like bouncing on top of me. I'm like, dude, get the fuck off me. Come on. Because if there had been no bumps in the road and he had just fallen on top of me,
yeah,
okay, whatever. I do martial arts. If you got a 200-pound dude on top of you, it's one thing if he's just laying there. But if he's bouncing on top of you, that's come on. That's abuse right there. So that was a hell night.
Yeah, that's rough.
The only great thing about this night, though, I'll never forget it. We stopped in some shitty little village, middle of the night, and there was an all-night taco truck. And these were the best tacos I've ever had before or since, no matter where the fuck I've been. It was so good. We were sitting there eating these tacos, and the juice is like running down our face. And we're like in orgasmic joy of how good these fucking taco truck tacos are. It's like inconceivable. We're in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And we're like just in this orgasmic joy over some fucking shitty tacos.
Yeah.
But these weren't. These were the most delicious tacos I've ever had in my life, probably ever will have. Yeah.
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 So maybe it is like path to heaven is filled with bad intentions.
I mean, there's just a ton of character that gets built like living that lifestyle, right? I mean, it teaches it. I mean, it seems like it goes without saying that it teaches you to appreciate, the little things, because the little things, it makes me think about the new crop of bands and how different things are now with technology and all that sort of stuff, and in different avenues. And God, I mean, listening to these stories right now, if I were to start touring, I'd probably be like, shit, I can't even hack this. Like, I can't. I think it for like a week. Yeah, sure. I could survive a week. But
it really is testament to the fact that you are really put to a gauntlet of a test of the depth of your commitment.
Right.
Once you have to pile in a van with your buddies and go out there, go 5 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 10 weeks, living under those conditions just so you can go play your music and hopefully build your audience. There's a whole bunch of people who come to their senses and go, why the fuck am I doing this? This is fucking stupid. I'm going back to my shitty job where at least I'll get paid. Right? You gotta really fucking want it.
Right.
Which, to someone who stands where I've stood, right, having done it, right, and I look at people who say they would like to have a music career, and if I blah 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 blah, well, okay, were you willing to do what it fucking takes? Like, I often give this example to my students. There was a time, if you can even fathom this, when Behemoth and Nurgle were not fabulously successful yet, weren't at the top of the bill, making fabulous productions. There was a time when they were at the very bottom of the bill, right?
Yeah.
And for about a decade, they worked their way up. They toured with anybody and everybody, often not getting paid hardly anything. But these guys became genius at selling merch, right? Because they had to. But they were willing to tour with anybody and everybody, no matter what the fucking conditions were. These guys were fucking warriors, right? Some people today might look at Behemoth and go, oh, well, you got all this advantage, money, all media this, all videos that, blah. You know what? Those fucking guys earned all that 100 times over in that 10 years when they toured literally year round for anybody and everybody, living in a fucking shitty little van on every continent. Whatever it took, they were willing to pay the fuck price. So guess what?
Yeah.
After, a decade, things started really going their way. And you know what? They earned it. They earned it. No matter what you want to say about their music, wherever your position is on that, I don't care.
Right, bro.
They're just like one of those bands always on tour, and it's like the lineups. I remember I saw them 2007. It was a club in upstate New York called the Johnson City Music Hall. You guys probably might have played it.
I think I've been there. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was a Ozzfest off date. So headliner was Lamb of God, Hatebreed, Behemoth, and 3 Inches of Blood. And I was like, man, it's like I would have taken a day off, but not them. They play like 30 shows on top of this thing.
Dude, we all had to do that. Every band, every support band on that tour, you had to pay money to be on Ozzfest. Mm-hmm. It was a buy-on. The only way that you could pay for your tour bus to be on the tour was to play off Ozzfest tour dates wherever you could possibly fill them in, which is a miracle of metal booking agency geniusness, how these guys managed to pull this off. The off-show dates for us, we had Chthonic and two other bands from Ozzfest were on there. But I mostly remember the Chthonic guys because they were Korean and they were quite nice. We had to do the same thing, right? Because that was the only way to pay for the tour bus, is to play off-show dates. Right? So we're still not even barely breaking even on the whole venture, and we're literally killing ourselves. The most exhausting thing about Ozzfest, besides the off-show dates, was the support bands were on stages in the parking lot that was sectioned off. Okay?
Yeah.
The tour buses for those support bands arrive early in the morning and park.
Yeah.
All the other parking then arrives. So those tour buses are not leaving until the middle of the night when all those people have motherfucking gone home.
Oh.
So what does that mean? That means that logistically, after you've played, you now have nowhere to go, nothing to do except hang out, drink your beer allotment or your liquor allotment, whatever was on your rider that they provided. So there was a ridiculous, massive amount of band guys in a parking lot, nowhere to go. Guess what they do?
Yeah.
They drink beer, drink liquor, have fun, hang out, have a great time. Well, after 8 weeks of that shit, and this was also during a heat wave. That summer, it was triple digits all across the country. So it was fucking hot. You couldn't have slept anyway. We were fucking tired. I mean, really fucking tired. Like, when I see videos of myself taken during the time, I'm like, holy shit, this dude looks like he's been in combat or something. Like, I remember on one of the off dates, we had an interview supposed to do with Guitar World magazine, right?
Yeah.
Well, no one told me that this was a video interview. They say it's going to be an interview. We might do some photos, but easy peasy. We're driving out of the office, and there you go. So we arrive at Guitar World, some magazines, nice offices in New York. There's all these video cameras. Well, we're exhausted. We're also fucking hungover, right? This is the worst possible combination of events because I can barely fucking think. I'm exhausted. I'm hungover. I can barely play. And now there's cameras. And they're going to promote the shit out of this video. These videos are going to get a shitload of play.
Yeah.
And I'm barely even functionable. Man. Right? This has been the bane of my existence, right, for years. Right? It was completely traumatizing because people saw the video and they're going, what's with this asshole? And, mainly, rightfully so. But, the life circumstances trying to survive on tour on Ozzfest under those conditions, what are you going to do?
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know. You got to deal with what the metal gods hand you. Live with the consequences.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I was just, I think it was about a year ago, No, it was 2 years ago. Before I was talking to a friend of mine, Zach Gibson, who played with the Black Dahlia on one of the. I think it was when Maiden was on Ozzfest tour, and I was like, "It's like, did you really go see Maiden every night?" It's like, "Yes, I did," and it was fucking awesome every night. I'm like, "Yeah, I guess." Like now that makes sense. Like you can't go just hide in your tour bus or like in a van.
Well, even if you want to go to your tour bus, it's 100 degrees and you're on the asphalt in the parking lot. There's no respite from the heat. You couldn't sleep even if you motherfucking want to. You're not going to sleep until the bus cranks up, AC is on, and you're rolling. There's no sleeping. How are you going to sleep? It's 100 fucking degrees.
Yeah.
And you're in a metal tour bus sitting in the sun, baking all day, and you're on a concrete pad. Big concrete parking lot. Dude, you might as well be in a motherfucking frying pan.
True. Yeah.
I'm just processing all that right now. It's just like, oh my God. I
now
would
thinking
be
like
very... Oh, go ahead.
No, I'm just a babbling idiot.
Oh, I was just about to say, like, I didn't realize you guys were on Ozzfest, and I can only imagine, like, the audience, like, what the audience reaction must have been. Like, how were the audiences during those shows?
Those were people gathered to have some metal, so they were ready. There's a line in Scarface, right? And it reminds me of this. When he says, this town is like a great big pussy just waiting to be fucked. Well, that was the Ozzfest audience.
Yeah.
They're there to have some metal. So guess what?
Yeah.
If you give them some metal, they're going to be happy people.
That's amazing.
There's no problem there. The only difficulties of that really were they had 5-minute changeovers between bands on that little ass tiny stage. So that meant you had to wait 2.5 minutes. It's like a fucking drill. By the end of the tour, everybody had it down. But first week, this was a nightmare. 2.5 minutes, get every lick of stage gear off that stage.
Right.
2.5 minutes to bring the next one on and be ready to roll, because 5-minute changeovers. Dude.
That's nuts.
You guys play 2.5 minutes from bring it on the stage to play the first fucking note. And guess what? If you don't fucking start on time, it don't matter. You are finishing on time. So, wow, the amount of like stress involved just in getting up, getting off.
Yeah.
Is man, that's fucking pressure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's.
And I'm assuming that was, but yeah.
Oh, sorry.
And and I'm assuming that's like before the days of like Axe Effects and like Kemper, like
right. It's totally old school. Yeah. We had we brought a full crew. Like there was a guitar tech on my side of the stage, guitar tech on the other side. We had drum tech. We had helpers. They did have a really good crew. That actually, helped you get your shit on and off, but it was Nazi-like precision and order. I mean, yeah, dude, that's fucking discipline. It's inconceivable to my mind right now when I talk about it, but that's what we had to do. That's what everybody did, and we learned to do it.
Yeah. I mean,
I wouldn't want to do it again.
Yeah, I bet.
Right. But it's amazing what human beings can actually do when you put them in a situation where you have to.
Right.
This is what we're doing. This is what has to be done. Or go the fuck home. Well, you can't go home.
Yeah.
Right. If your record company paid enough money for you to be on Ozzfest, you do what you fucking told.
Right.
Right. When that stage manager says, all right, do you have 2 minutes?
I mean,
Go.
for what it's worth, like, I just think that's so fucking cool that you guys were on that bill. Because, like, I haven't paid attention to all of Ozzfest. Like, I went to like a couple of them, but the most extreme band that I ever saw on there was I think Dimmu Borgir, and that was it. Like, I didn't realize, like, I wish I could have seen you guys, is what I'm trying to say. Because that whole, because, you know, like, the types of bands that usually are on Ozzfest, especially you look over the course of that whole, you know, time, it's just like there weren't many death metal bands.
No, there were not.
And that's just so fucking cool. You just made my day, basically, is what I'm trying to say. And I'm kicking myself for not making it out there at that time.
I'm actually just looking up the year. Was it 2008?
I think it was 7. It was 2007. So it coincided with our Ithiphallic thing, which Ithiphallic actually was rushed so that it could be finished in time for Ozzfest.
Okay.
Which was the origin of many of our dissatisfactions with the production on that record, is because it has to be done in time to be out there and be promoted, ready to go by the time Ozzfest starts. So that record got a lot of hate amongst fans. Well, one of the core reasons is there was more time should have been spent on some stuff. But guess what? You got to do what you got to motherfucking do in this world. Yeah. And sometimes there are consequences. And well, that was one of them.
Yeah. I'm really kicking myself now because I wasn't doing anything in 2007. I could have made it to that show. God damn it!
It was free that year. That year it was fucking free. But they got you. Like, water was like $10 for a bottle of water.
Yeah.
Plus a $5 tip.
Parking, I think it was $20 parking. So they cleaned up on parking. They cleaned up on dude, do you know how many people are willing to pay that amount of money for water if you're standing outside all motherfucking day long in triple-digit heat?
Yeah.
You will drink some motherfucking water, whatever it costs. You'll do it.
Yeah.
The value meter just rises with every degree. Yeah.
Ka-ching!
Yeah, those fuckers cleaned up. There was so much money made on a free Ozzfest. It was ridiculous.
Yeah. I actually think it was that summer that I got to see the off dates, and with the Hatebreed and Lamb of God, because I'm like looking at the lineup and it's like, yep, Ozzy. Yeah. Must have been. My question is, like, well, Ozzfest is like, or at least used to be like the epitome of, like, if you graduate the U.S. touring, but kind of like touring in the U.S. versus Europe. Like, from what I've heard, Europe has like really good venues. Like, you have showers, catering. You know, your dressing room is not an alley. But in the U.S., like, you got, like, you know, Walmarts and like AT&T, Verizon, whatever, like coast to coast.
It's a trade-off. Yeah, it's a fucking trade-off, you know.
But yeah, like touring, like in the U.S. and in Europe, like obviously, like European venues, showers a big thing. But then in the U.S., it's like, I guess, like, if you're from the States, you could say, like, it's a convenience. Like, everybody speaks English, perhaps with a tiny little bit of a different accent. You know,
it used to be like that, right? 20 years ago, there were plenty of language barriers, but because of the internet, English is everybody's second language. So it's everybody speaks some form of English now, which makes metal band touring very easy compared to what it was 20 years ago, 25 years ago. There's a line, it's a Bruce Willis line in the movie The Fifth Element, where he says, I only speak two languages, English and bad English. Yeah. Well, that's metal in our current linguistic element. Yeah.
And then you can always get by with the power of charades, hand gestures, and like pointing to things.
Quote a movie.
Food.
Which just reminded me, I think you guys might have played that festival up in Quebec called Montebello or Amnesia. It's like halfway Ottawa,
I don't think
Montreal. Yeah. But it's all very French. Like as soon as you cross over from the Ottawa River to, I didn't actually know until I went there that that's where Quebec starts. And it's all of a sudden everything's in French.
Yep.
But I got fined by saying in French, like, I am a cheeseburger, pointing the thing.
Well, they probably already knew that without you even opening your mouth, right? They already they see you coming, right? There's just something about the American. It's like written all over you. You don't even have to open your mouth. People already know you're a fucking cheeseburger and a Coke.
Cheeseburger and a Budweiser.
You see that guy? That motherfucker's a cheeseburger.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I had a question actually. This might seem a little vague. I'll try to make it as concise as I can, but as far as like, if you were to take, an up and coming band and, you're giving them a slot on your bill, what is, I guess, what are the do's and don'ts of etiquette, like band etiquette? Like what was advice that you would give to a young band who hasn't been in that situation yet, and like how to conduct oneself, like how to act, basically?
Not to piss off.
Yeah.
That's a really valid question, and that's sometimes generically referred to as like rules of the road. Right. Basically, the headliner calls the fucking shots. They make the fucking schedule, and you abide by the schedule. You load in when you're told to. You load out when you're told to. This is your set. This is your time. This is your fucking slot. And you don't run over. If for some reason you couldn't get it together, right, and you started 20 minutes late, well, you're still ending on time. A very famous German tour manager named Bobo. Famous. Everybody who's toured in metal knows Bobo. His famous line was, well, you can discuss or you can play. Because discussion is pointless.
Yeah.
If you're a support band, just face it, you're at the mercy of the headliner. Down to every last thing, even as far as who gets to park where. Because guess what? Whatever band is headlining, they get the prime parking spot on the venue. You park whatever's left over. Maybe if you're in Philadelphia, that means go fuck yourself. Right? If the headliner usually gets whatever dressing room it is that they want.
Right.
They get first call on the catering. I'll never forget this shit. This was a hard lesson. First big tour we did in Europe. we were at the bottom of the bill. 6 Foot Under, Enslaved, Vader, Topsy, us, a couple other bands. If there's only one shower in the venue, guess who gets first shower? The headliner. If you're at the bottom of the bill, you pray that their capacity of their hot water heater is sufficient to let 40 other dudes take a shower, and maybe the water's not ice cold by the time it's your turn.
Yeah.
Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Most of the time, it isn't.
Hell, I'm gonna go get the bucket.
You're taking a cold ass motherfucking shower, which ain't so bad if it's July or August.
Right.
Okay, all right. But if it's February, that's no fun.
Yeah.
That's no fun at all.
Rough.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
And that actually kind of leads me with a question. Like I've heard, I don't know if it's as extreme as that, but like at the end of the tour, say you're like 10 days to go, for a fresh pair of socks, what's the most valuable thing you could trade someone with?
You know, I solved this riddle a long ass time ago. What I do, I just go to Walmart and I buy the big 12-pack of socks. Yeah. If tour is going to be a month and a half, well, you just calculate how many days that is, and you buy the appropriate number of socks, by the dozen. So when I start the tour, I got 40 pairs of new socks.
Yeah. That's going to feel amazing every single day.
Well, there's nothing worse than having to wear socks after you fucking sweated in them on stage playing death metal. Because death metal is hot, sweaty work.
Yeah.
All your clothes are soaked, right? So as soon as we're done with the show, and you hit the shower, those socks just go straight in the trash can. I don't even bother anymore because what's the cost? Yeah. It's $4.99 for a 12-pack of fucking socks at Walmart. So
like, would that be like a good like bartering tool to have? Like, you have a bunch of socks and then you're with other bands and be like, hey, can I have your sandwich for like this pair of socks?
I don't give away my fucking socks. Fuck you. My fucking socks. You should have thought of that when we were at Walmart. You fucking fuck. Next time we stop at Walmart, instead of fucking off and getting high, you go in, you buy a pair of motherfucking socks.
That's amazing.
Have you ever heard of anyone like hunting prey? Like I got a fucking 100-pack of socks and you got none, so sandwich socks.
Dude, my younger brother, was our sound man. He'd been a sound man before he started working for us, but he was my brother. So for the first couple years of Nile, my brother was our sound man. Well, these were also the desperate years when we were at the bottom bill and we're not getting paid. So, my fucking brother would buy as many cartons of cigarettes as he could, wherever he could, right? Because in different states, cigarettes cost different amounts of money. Well, if you got a fucking motorhome full of broke-ass metal musicians who all smoke and are all bumming cigarettes, my brother figured out you could sell a cigarette for $1 and people will pay it.
Yeah.
So
I've done it.
Yeah, this motherfucker was selling cigarettes like a fucking. I don't even know the word for this.
It's like a central bank of cigarettes.
He's like a kingpin. I'm sure he cleaned
cigarettes off of.
He did.
Yeah,
he did clean up.
I don't doubt it.
He not only paid for his own smoking habit, but he had money on the side to, spend at the bar every night. $1 at a time. From his metal touring brothers. The whole concept bothers me. I didn't smoke. I didn't smoke, so I was not victim.
That's good.
Of his greed, but I saw it.
Yeah. Especially in those situations where you can't leave and there's nothing to do and you're just hanging out with everybody and people are drinking. Like, I can only imagine how much he cleaned up in those types of situations too.
Yep.
Yeah, and especially like, say 20 years ago, like West Virginia or Kentucky, you'd get 10 cartons of cigarettes, and then you get to like Oakland, California, where probably already it was like $10 a pack. I was like, ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching.
Or New York City.
Yep.
Yeah.
New York is pretty bad. I think the last time I was there, it was back when I smoked. It was like $14 in Queens.
Get out of here.
Something like that. I think for Marlboro Lights. I think. Yeah. So it was an investment in your death.
Yeah. Exactly.
Don't smoke, children. Please don't smoke.
No. It's fun sometimes, but when you're drunk.
I mean, they seem to go hand in hand. I see that a lot. People start drinking and you want to smoke.
And coffee.
Yeah.
Cliche, but it's for a reason. It works. But yeah, I'm very glad I don't do that anymore. Doesn't do you any favors.
Yeah. Well, should we move to the closing argument of this wonderful chat? Before, when I started, actually, we wrote some things down, believe it or not. But now that you're next time in Greenville, South Carolina, the bus takes you to the place where you collect your merch and instruments and stuff. What do you think's going to be different? Like now the post, I don't know, like post, but like sometime hopefully post COVID world. Like
the level of appreciation and gratitude, where before you would see jaded entitlement.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm thankful for every show, every fan that we have, so we can go do the thing that makes us happy, makes other people happy. It's not a right. It's a precious gift from the people who appreciate your music to get to go play that music. And I'm pretty confident that the mood of the tour bus completely different than some of the things I've seen in the past from people on tour.
Yeah, sounds like an optimistic view, and I think it's definitely like shows are almost like a release valve for a lot of people, and now it's been turned off for a year and a half.
Yeah,
and so I'm really hoping that audience and the bands alike can just kind of rekindle the original love that this is what we do this for, and as well as with the audience. Like, yeah, I could go see them in 2 months, so I wouldn't bother tonight. So hopefully that kind of thing flies out the window for
I think your word rekindle, right? Your word rekindle, right? When you're kindling something, you're attempting to coax fire into existence by helping it. You put kindling on the fire and you blow on it, you're kindling it, rekindling it,
Yeah.
right? This situation, I think, is more like there's been a gasoline spill on the fucking highway. There's a bunch of people standing around smoking, and we're going to give them permission to throw their cigarettes wherever they want to now. That's more like it. It's not like you got to coax nothing. That's a fire waiting to fucking go.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, what I'm hoping from this podcast, like from anybody listening, is that they'll get some perspective on like what it's really like on the other end from like a musician's perspective, like somebody who's been doing it for as long as it, because like I mean, this has been an education for me alone, right? Like just getting, and I really do appreciate like how candid you've been. It's awesome. And yeah, like I said, my hope is that audience members will really like take into account like how much, you know, work actually goes into this. And my hope is that they just hopefully appreciate it more as a result.
Who could say? You know, I still think that the audience, the fan that buys the fucking ticket, buys a t-shirt, he makes it all fucking possible. That's who we should be celebrating. Yes, it is a lot of work if you want to tour professionally and do it and survive. Yes, it's not a walk in the park, but getting to play your music for that hour, that other 23 hours, they might kind of suck, but that hour that you can connect with the people who appreciate the music that you make, that is some magical fucking shit,
right,
that we're all a part of. Everybody has their own role, and no one is less important. The audience is important. The perform is important. It takes all of it to come together to make metal happen. So for me, I appreciate everything that goes in. So do I care about educating fans as to what it actually costs? I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm just happy they're there. I'm just happy fans exist. You know, do they have to be this? Do they have to be that? Do I have to raise their awareness? No. I'm just happy they exist.
Well
So
put.
powerful words. I can't say anything to that.
No. Yeah. Can't argue with that. This is my own like selfish perspective on audiences these days. I mean, I'm a teacher, so that's I want to educate everybody just by nature, I guess. And I get grumpy at people who don't, who take things for granted, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
That's the main thing.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. The people do take a lot for granted, you know, all the way around. Especially if you're born in America, we just have an inherent mindset of taking a whole lot of motherfucking shit for granted. Which you won't appreciate until you go enough other places.
Yeah, for sure.
To see some actual human condition.
Mm-hmm.
I will never forget going to Malaysia, going to Venezuela, or any number of other places where, you know what, we should be really thankful for the shit that we fucking have.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And or if you're like me, I was born and raised in another country, and I've kind of transplanted myself here. So that's why I think I have a whole lot more of a appreciation for what it is. Because every time I go back home, I kind of like, okay, I like these things, but this is exactly why I moved. And then when the plane lands in Chicago, I see the big buildings, it's noisy, and something like, It's good to be home.
Dude, there was something that's always been with Niall. Every time that the plane touches ground on our American continent, we sing the fucking theme song to that fucking movie. America, fuck yeah, coming again to save the motherfucking day, yeah. America, fuck yeah. Well, you know what? Yeah, I mean, America's got a whole shitload of motherfucking problems, and I think we as Americans have a lot to motherfucking learn. But when that plane touches ground, I'm happy to be here.
Yeah,
thankful.
Absolutely.
I never forget listening to Leonard Skinner on that flight back to Chicago. It's like, yes. Only in America, baby.
It's true. We have it pretty good.
Yeah, but hey, on that patriotic note, I think we've learned a lot, and I've definitely feel like I've been to school today.
Totally.
And
totally.
And it's like soon to be post-COVID world. We just all kind of have to trace our meaning and to really see like where we fit. And after this, I have a much better idea what I should do.
Make some motherfucking metal. That's what you should do.
That's what I'm gonna go do.
And more MIDI.
Thank you so much. More MIDI. Any special requests? Since we're live, I have to make it happen.
More doom beats at ultra slow tempos. Yeah, it's the hardest thing ever. It's the hardest motherfucking thing ever to get that feel and make it translate when you're writing MIDI drums, right? Or to bend some other MIDI if you want something that's fucking got that elusive, ineffable essence of doom. Yeah, that shit. That's magic.
Shit, man.
40 BPM, Ron. Get on it.
Go hit the drum and make a sandwich and come back and minus 40 BPM.
Man, wouldn't it be cool if that were possible? Play at negative tempos, right? I love that. Like you hit a guitar note and play it in such a way that you don't even need anything else. You hit it.
Yeah.
It goes out into the universe and it develops meaning and context all on its own.
Yeah.
I like where this is
kind of like going above light speed where you actually arrived before you even left, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Or so slow, so fucking slow that you can't even see that it's moving.
Is that going to be doable for you, Ron?
Sure. I'm just going to go make a 40-year career at the military between hits, and second hit, I'll be a lieutenant. Or
if anybody can do it, I believe in you.
It would be me. All right, everybody. This has been a wonderful chat, and I think we could probably go on all day, but I think it's good to leave things at a positive note so that we don't get those weird moments. And you're always welcome to come back again, because I think like we just barely scratched the surface today.
Yeah, dude. We could talk about so many more fun things. It would be great.
That'd be awesome.
Love to.
Absolutely.
That'd be awesome.
And hope you all enjoy this. Any last words, Aaron?
Well, I mean, I held in most of my fanboy gushing which I'm proud of myself for. But you know, just as a fan, Karl, like I just want to say thank you for continuing to do what you do. Annihilation of the Wicked was my soundtrack to my stationary bike interval training workouts, like for so many years. And
nice.
Yes, my cardio was amazing thanks to your band. So you know, I have you to thank for that.
Well, thank you for having me, guys. I really love what you're doing. You guys have really got a great niche and are doing things in such a way that it's healthy. You got the right price point, and the value for what you do is completely amazing. And you are metal as fuck.
Wow.
Thank you.
That's huge. Thank you.
Yeah. And Tomb of the Mummified. Tomb of the Mummified.
Oh yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
It's a preset, and you know the IR loader that you got. I fucking love it. I was trying all the presets, and I was like, that's the obvious one, duh. Right?
Yeah.
And you even got one around the back of the cabinet, which I fucking love.
Yeah.
Right? I fucking love that. It's yeah.
That is awesome.
Tomb of the Mummified.
What can I say?
Yeah.
Well, I've gone speechless again. But yeah, it's been a blast, and whenever this episode comes out, I hope you guys enjoyed it thus far. And Karl, would love to have you back again, and hopefully next time you guys roll into Detroit, I will have something really cool to show you.
Awesome.
I'll bring my computer, and we can play with the toys.
Nice. All right, bros. Keep up the good work, man. I love what you guys do.
You too, sir. I will catch you next time. All right.
All right.
Peace and
guys.
love. All right.